So here in the final video of our Android Wear tour, I'm going to show you how we can customize a watch face on Android Wear. And it's actually pretty easy to do in Android Studio because there's a watch face template included. And you may have noticed it over here. There we go. So I'll keep those the default for now. You can choose analog or digital. Probably digital is easier to work with initially to customize, so we'll start with digital. And all I'm going to do here is just run you through the code and show you how you might want to change a few things depending on how you want your watch face to work. So here we go. You can see we've got, instead of our usual main activity, we've got my watch face as our main class. And all I'm going to do here is just run through the content of my watch face, explain roughly what it's doing. And that would give you all you need to start customizing and changing your own watch faces. So here we go. We've got, first off, the typeface. So you could imagine, first off, if you want to change the typeface to anything else, you could do that there. Couple of other settings here, the update rate. So unsurprisingly, the update rate here is every second, which is probably about right. But if you wanted, say, a stopwatch kind of a watch, you might want to do that every 10th of a second or something else. And here we've got a message ID, which is a number that is passed to our various updating methods when the time is updated. Then we've just got a few lines of code to create the new engine to update the time. This then gets the time zone, which is passed to the app via the broadcast receiver and then sets M time appropriately. This sets M register time zone receiver to initially false to be created later. And then we've got a couple of paint variables. Paints allow us to create 2D graphics. So you could just have a simple single color there, or you could create patterns and store them in these paint variables. But one for the background and one for the text. The M ambient boolean tells us whether we're in ambient mode, which is generally fainter and less battery intensive than full interactive mode. We've got the actual time variable, which is actually now deprecated but still in use here. The updated version is actually, it doesn't say there, but it's Gregorian calendar. If you want to keep your watch up to date, you should upgrade that. Use Gregorian calendar instead of time. And then those are the offsets for X and Y for our actual watch display. Almost there. This final one, as you can see there, is the special setting if the display supports fewer bits for each color in ambient mode. So if it's true, anti-aliasing will be disabled. All right. So now we've got our familiar onCreate method. So this essentially creates the watch face. So we've got watch face style builder, and then we've got our usual sets of options. So we've got card peak mode. So essentially what notifications are going to be allowed, and the default there is peak mode variable. I believe only shows important notifications, but you could change that if you wanted. We've got set the background visibility, and you can play with that to see what the various modes are. Show system UI time. So there's a system clock on the screen most of the time. You probably wouldn't want that to be displayed on your clock as well. So that's usually set to false. And then we build it. Then we get some resources for the watch face, which we're not really going to be using here. And we set the Y offset to 90 pixels. We create a new paint for the background, which is just a single color, whatever the digital background by default is. And similarly for the text, a single color, which is whatever the digital text color is. And then we've got our time is created there as well. Now we've got some default methods. So on destroy, this happens when the watch face is closed by the user. So it just removes the messages. So just to clear the cache essentially is what's going on there. We've got a method for creating the text paint, which sets the typeface and the anti-alias if we're using it, as well as the color. All right, moving on. We've got on visibility changed here, which is called when the watch face becomes visible or when it ceases to be visible. So when it becomes visible, we register receiving the updates and time and get the time zone, and we set the time to now. And when it becomes invisible, then we unregister that. So again, saving battery power. And it also starts or stops the timer as necessary. This method just registers the receiver to get the user's time zone, and this unregisters the receiver for it. Again, we don't want to be listening for a time zone change if we're not active. This method here is another way to get whether the screen is round or square, and it's on apply window asset insets. We can actually use this anywhere, and in this method you can use the boolean isRound, which you get from insets.isRound, and that will return true if it's round, or false if it's not. So this allows you to set the X offset dependent on the screen shape, and also the screen size as well, using getDimensions. Okay, almost there. OnPropertiesChanged is called when we go in or go out of ambient mode, and this just updates mlow bit ambient to keep track of that, so it knows where we are with regards to ambient mode. The on-time tick is called every minute in ambient mode to update the watch face, and the default here is just invalidate, which invalidates the canvas, causing the watch face to be updated in ambient mode. Here we've got a fairly straightforward on ambient mode changed. So this will happen when the ambient mode is changed, and it just checks to see if we're in ambient mode or not and updates settings accordingly, and then invalidates the canvas so that the watch face will be redrawn. The onDraw method is the main one that you're going to be working with, and this is the method that draws the watch face in ambient mode. So if you wanted to create, for example, a watch that counts down to Christmas, something like that, then this is where you would do the logic for that. So mTime gives you the current time, and then currently you can see we're just formatting the screen depending on whether we're in ambient mode or not. And if we're in ambient mode, we're just going to show the hour and minute. And if we're not in ambient mode, then we're going to show the hour, minute, and second. So it's these numbers that you would want to play around with if you wanted to have a different time or display the time in a different format. So if, for example, we wanted a dash instead of a colon there, then we would just change it like that. And then it draws the text using the offsets and the text paint variable that we've seen. And then this one just updates the timer if necessary. As it says here, if the timer isn't running, then it starts them off, or stops it if it shouldn't be running but is. This one then updates the time more often if we're in interactive mode. And finally, this part handles the messages to update the watch face or not, depending on the time and the mode, etc. So there's a lot of stuff that you probably won't need to mess around with there. The main thing, if you are interested in watch faces, that I would start off looking at is this onDraw method, and just take a look at what editing that does. But you might also want to play around with layouts and images and that kind of thing. If you actually want to sell or distribute a watch face, then it's usually styles that people are particularly interested in. So that's probably what you're going to want to play with most. So let's just very quickly see how we initialize this watch face, because it's not just the same as running an app. Once you've run the app on your device, you need to select it as a live watch face. So first off, just something to notice is in the Android manifest, we've got a label, My Digital, and that is the name that appears on the list of watches. So if you wanted to make that something custom, you could do that down here in strings.xml. So it's currently My Digital. If you wanted to change it to Rob's watch face or something like that, then you would do that there. So here we go. To get our watch face up, we need to go back to the main home screen and then long press, and then you can jump through. I think we've actually got a couple of My Digitals there. from my testing earlier. So let's just select one of those. And there you go. That's the one that we had before. So you can see we've now got the dash instead of the colon where I changed it there. So there you go. That's the basics of how to edit a watch face. And that takes us to the end of our tour of Android Wear. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll just redirect you back to the Android documentation, which is a great place to go. It's got instructions on creating watch faces, sending and syncing data, so all of the stuff that we've talked about, but in a bit more detail and showing you some of the features that I haven't included here. So I hope your brain is whizzing with brilliant ideas for wearable apps. As always, don't be afraid, don't worry about it, just put something together, test it, see if people like it. Best of luck.